Hello, everyone, and welcome. I know people are just starting to log in now, so I'll give just a moment for folks to log in. But before we get started, I can go ahead and introduce myself here. My name is Claire Fuller. I'm the Public Programs Manager here at Hillwood Estate Museum and Gardens. So thank you for joining us today. I'm delighted that we can gather virtually here this afternoon for our virtual floral design workshop, Welcome Spring. We hope that those of you in the DC area will be able to visit soon to explore our newest special exhibition, Marjorie Merriweather Post's Paris. You can find more information about our upcoming programs and purchase tickets on our website at hillwoodmuseum.org. So I'm also excited to share that we are offering both virtual and in-person floral workshops this year. Though our in-person workshops next month are currently sold out, you can join our next virtual floral design workshop on Friday, May 17th, focusing on peonies. So you can take a look at all of these upcoming programs on our website, and I'll go ahead and place the link to our programs page, as well as our next virtual workshop in the chat. So before we get started, just a couple of quick notes about today's class. Our wonderful floral and event decor designer, Ami Wilber, will build an arrangement on camera step by step and stop for questions along the way. The demo will take about 45 minutes. So throughout this demo, you're welcome to add any questions or ask any questions that you'd like via the chat feature at the bottom of your screens here. As they cross your mind, you're welcome to submit them, and we'll have time for questions throughout. So after the demo, I'll invite all of you to stay for a show and tell. So anyone who's interested, anyone who's following along at home is welcome to share their arrangement at the end of the program. So it is now my pleasure to pass us over to Ami Wilber.
Great, thank you, Claire, and welcome everyone, and welcome spring. If you are in the DC area, you will notice that a lot of the cherry blossoms are still out and they're still in bloom. We have some at on property actually here at Hillwood. So the sort of first wave of cherry blossoms has come and gone, but then the second wave of cherry blossoms comes in. And that's actually what we have that we're going to be using today. So if you notice, you can see it behind me, but then I'll just do a quick little closer look. These are the double bloom cherry blossoms that we're going to use today. And I wanted to really kind of build the arrangement around the cherry blossoms and then also spring bulbs. The other thing that we have that we're going to be using today are hyacinths, which I know for us at Hillwood, they are starting to starting to leave. They're starting to come out, but for people who are probably a little bit more north, they're probably just starting to bloom. And then we have tulips. And these tulips are actually all tulips that I harvested this morning from our cutting garden. So again, if you are in the DC area, you can see these tulips that I am using today because they are all coming from the cutting garden. So I really wanted to build something that really just did feel like, it's springtime and it's, time to like come out of hibernation. And I selected, I think colors that are going to be kind of bright and cheerful to really elevate your home to make it feel like spring. So I have chosen a rather large container for today. This is this lovely amber glass container. And the reason for choosing something of this size is because we're going to be using a lot of branches. And so anytime you have sort of heavier branches or items that I think are a little bit weighty, you want to make sure that you have a container that's going to be able to hold the weight of those and to be able to also keep them upright. So again, this is taking up a lot of water and kind of big. So I already filled it with water, but I have chicken wire here. And I like to go in and just sort of make a little nest of this chicken wire. I've almost made like a little tube for this. And then I'm going to go ahead and put this into my container. So now what's going to happen is this is going to kind of sit in a little bit towards the bottom of the container, as you can see. So I don't really need to put floral tape on this. I think it will be fine. Typically you use floral tape to make sure that the chicken wire stays in place. But again, because of the size and the depth of this particular arrangement, you won't need to wire in or tape in the chicken wire. Again, for all of you who have been with me throughout the last 4 years of doing virtual, you know the reason why we use chicken wire. But if anyone here is new, I just always love to make the plug that we are trying to be as sustainable as possible here at Hillwood, so we don't use any floral foam. That is why we have the chicken wire. The chicken wire is also really nice because it helps keep the stems fresher longer, just because the stems are going directly into water. I don't have anything in my water, but if you get those little floral packets, you can feel free to put that into your water. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and green up my container. I have a variegated pittosporum that I'm going to use today. What I'm going to do is I want to make sure that anything going into my water is a nice clean stem. I'm going to cut everything at a really sharp 45-degree angle. And I'm going to do this as a one-sided arrangement today. So I'm going to start sort of from the back and move forward. So I'm going to start in with some of my larger pieces of pittosporum. Again, because this is kind of a large container, that I can actually use this entire thing today as is. So I'm going to just give that a quick snip. Again, I'm really going to start sort of from the back of my container and then move forward because it's just going to be one-sided. The reason that I am greening up first is because it helps to then secure the other blooms that will go into place later on. I'm just cleaning up, again, my stems of pittosporum so that, again, I have a really nice, clean stem that's going to go into my container. And the reason for that is that you just want to, try and keep this water as fresh as possible. Oh, I see. This is going to be big today. So let's just see if I can pull this back. I don't know if you can tell, but I have this on a Lazy Susan, one of my favorite sort of props to use when I am doing any kind of floral arranging, because it allows me to kind of turn my arrangement around to look at it and not have to then physically move it in place. All right, so again, this gal is going to be kind of big. So what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to bring this back just a little bit, and I'm going to put it onto my stool over here. So I'm just going to do really quick, just a quick little thing that I think will help to be able to see this, realize that this is going to be this larger endeavor beforehand. But yeah, okay. So I think this gives a little bit of a better, a little bit better, so that you can kind of see what I'm doing. Okay, so then again, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with just a little bit more of my pittosporum to really kind of get this nice and greened up. Again, because of the size of this container, I can use this whole piece just as is, but I'm going to give it a nice fresh cut. And now I've got my container greened. You can kind of see this is the back side and the front side. And so I am happy with the shape that this is taking with my greens. A lot of times what I'll do is with my greens, I will create this sort of sketch of the shape that I want my arrangement to be. Are there any questions about the greening so far? Are you feeling good? I still have a couple of pieces that I'm going to hang on to and just sort of save for later.
No questions?
Feeling good? All right. So the next thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to do this a little bit differently than some of the other arrangements where, you start with your larger blooms, that kind of thing. But I'm going to start with my cherry blossoms because these stems, as you can kind of see, are really kind of thick, and they're going to take up a lot of sort of space, and it's going to be good to kind of have them in there to get them in secured so that I can then put in my delicate blooms afterwards. trying to shove in cherry branches after you've put in tulips or hyacinth is not going to work out very well. So as you can see, this is a really large piece of cherry. And I don't want to use, well, actually, I think I might. I'm going to use this entire piece as is. So I'm going to give my cherry stem, I have these loppers here that I can then cut my branch with because it is really thick. This makes it a bit easier. So I'm going to try this. Let's see. It might be too big. It might be just way too much happening, but I'm going to try it first. Let's just see. So I'm going to put this in towards the back. And I can tell that the container is not going to appreciate having this one too big. All right, so I was a little ambitious with that. I'm going to cut this down to be a more manageable size. I'm going to just go in with my pruning shears. And I'm going to cut this at these points here to make a better, more manageable cherry blossom. I do like the way this is kind of curving like that. So I think I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm going to then use my loppers to cut down a little bit. Now let's try this. Maybe this will be a more manageable size branch. Okay, so that you can see is more manageable in size. And I really like how this back one is kind of curving. I'm going to probably lower this down a little bit so we'll get a better sense of that in just a minute. So now I have this piece that I've cut off. So I'm going to break this down to make it, again, more manageable. I'm going to recut the bottom. And then I'm going to, I like the way this is curving sort of like this direction. So I'm going to allow that to sort of stay as is. And then keep that so the curves are going over there to the right. I know it's a little bit hard to see. And then I'm going to take this one, this little bendy branch one, and I'm going to put this one in up over here. So I'm just going to keep doing this with my cherry blossoms. Are there any questions about what I'm doing so far?
Yeah,
Is everyone feeling good?
One question for you, Amy. Someone asks, how tall should the arrangement be with respect to the length of the vase?
So I always like to go by the rule of thumb that you're going to do 1.5 times the height and width of your container. And again, with this container that I have today, I'm going to pick it up so you can see the bottom. You can see how the bottom kind of like bellows out a bit, and it's heavy. So this is like a good solid container. So something like this, I know I can actually go up a little bit higher and a little bit wider without having to worry about the integrity of the arrangement then, you know, tipping over. Because for the most part, you're really trying to think about stability of your arrangement. All right, so again, I'm going to look at this cherry branch and see that it's really quite large. So I'm going to break this down a bit. I'm taking off these side shoots here off of the main branch. And then I have this still really long, lovely branch. But I think what I'm going to do is, because this is kind of almost looks like it's in two parts, I'm going to cut off that top. And now I have these two elements of the cherry. I'm going to cut this one down so it's not quite as long, so I have a more manageable size. Then I'm going to tuck this one in a little bit towards the back. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to give the arrangement some depth. because if you just have your flowers and your blooms all just sort of facing the front and nothing kind of in the back, you're not going to get sort of the dimension that you want from your arrangement. You don't want it to be kind of cartoonish, and when you turn it to the side, that would be really flat. So what I'm doing is I'm just going in and I'm putting this in towards the back again to give that back a little bit of color and also to give the arrangement a little bit more depth so that even from the side, it still has volume to it. All right, then I'm going to go in with this lovely piece that I just cut off earlier. And I'm going to put this in towards the front there. And I'm just going to kind of give this a little look. I like what's happening. I want this piece to just kind of turn this way lightly. Just going to manipulate that just a little bit. That. And as you can see, I'm leaving some space here for my tulips. Because again, these cherries with their branches, you don't really want to, try and put things into your arrangement and then put the cherry branches in, because it will just sort of wreak havoc with these branches. So again, I'm really just sort of filling in with my cherry blossoms. I'm going to see if I can move this down. You might be able to get it better. It's too low now. All right, it's a little low, but you can now sort of like see the top of the arrangement. So just going to do a little bit more camera maneuvering. It's really close up of my face. Sorry about that. All right. All right. So this, let's try. Okay. I think that this is a better height for you guys to kind of see what's happening. Delete it. All right. Sorry for all this rigmarole with my camera view. You'd think be able to do this by now without having to shuffle it around, but here we are. All right. So I still have one more branch left. And this one is interesting because you can see it has all of these like little shoots that are coming off of it. But I can see like one part up here where I think would be a good sort of like break or a place where I could then snip from, so it's not too obvious. And then I'm going to put this one. It's a little hard to see with these other cherries that I have back here. It's like a little tree forest. All right. So then I've got this one here. And this is my last one. It's funny. It's like I look at this and I feel like I could almost just do a whole thing with just cherries and not even worry about your other blooms. But we have some beautiful tulips and things, so we are going to use those. But we almost stop with just these cherry branches. All right, I'm going in with my last cherry. And I'm gonna again put this in towards the back so that again I'm giving it a little bit of volume in the back to give it a little bit of depth. Okay, so this is what's happening. So as you can see, the back definitely still has a little bit of blooms in it as well. It's really, well, when I hold up a piece of fabric, I think it'll be easier to then see. All right, so we've got our cherries in. That was a little laborious. Does anyone have any questions about what we've just done?
No questions.
Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go in with my hyacinth, these purple ones here. And because you can see that the stems are kind of short, these are going to be a little bit lower down towards the base of the container. So I'm going to do this. And the one thing that's lovely is that I can see my stems in the water. So I want to make sure that I get it in the water. But these aren't going to add a lot of height. So these are going to be more in again towards the bottom. And I'm going to then kind of cluster them together because I only have 5 stems of them. So I'm going to do 2 together here at the bottom. And then I'm going to put the other 3 back slightly. Again, I'm recutting the stems. And then I am just having these 2 kind of hyacinth friends that are going to hang out together. And those 2 are going to be here. And this dark blue color is also giving it a little bit of depth and volume as well. Again, this one's a little bit longer and straighter, so I'll be able to put this one in sort of back towards the center. And again, I can look at my container and see if it's actually in the water or not. And the one thing that's great about hyacinth, sort of the same thing with tulips, is that they will sort of continue to grow and they'll sort of lengthen down as well. And I usually talk about the rule of odd numbers and that you can make these sort of triangular shapes with your blooms. And the thing that makes that kind of easy is I'm doing it more in these like clumps. So I'm not doing it necessarily as like individual stem per se, but as you can see, I have one here, I have one here, and then I have one back here, which is a little bit hard to see. You can't really see that, but I've then made this like lovely sort of triangular pattern with it. So I'm going to take this last one and I'm going to bring it in and it's going to go into the back as well. So that back has a little bit more volume. I don't know if you can kind of see this. I'm going to move my camera so you can kind of see right here where those are. All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go in with my tulips. So again, these are some beautiful tulips that I just cut from our cutting garden today. I have 2 different colors. I have an orange and I have a yellow. Again, the one thing that is always sort of tricky with tulips is that they will be completely different than they are today. So, or they'll be different tomorrow because what tulips are doing is they're constantly growing and they're always looking for the light. So even though this has a lovely bend, which I love, tomorrow when I come in, this tulip will be straight up most likely. So take your picture of your arrangement today, but I'm going to use this still with this lovely curve and bend for today. And then, you know, we'll see what happens tomorrow. Again, I'm going to cut my stem. And I'm going to go in with my orange ones first. And I'm going to then sort of do more of this triangular pattern that will be a little bit more easy to understand. And I'm lucky that these are kind of longer stemmed tulips as well. So again, you don't want to forget about the back, even though it's a one-sided arrangement. So make sure that you are putting things in towards the back. So again, it's a little bit, you can kind of see it back there, but it's giving it a little bit of depth. And so now I'm thinking I have 1, 2, and then I'm going to do my third one here. 3. So I don't really like what is happening per se with this one in the back. I don't like how I don't know if you can tell, but it's just straight up standing back there. So I'm gonna just sort of tweak this so it's not quite doing that. And one of the things I like to do, especially when I have any kind of branches, is that you can almost use these branches as little supports to then either help prop up your stem or sort of like nestle it in between the stem. So what I mean by that is you can see like right here, this is a great example. There's like a little V in my branch right there. I could take one of my blooms and then I can weave it through that V so that the branch, and this is helping support that stem of my tulip. So I'm gonna just cut this real quick. I'm gonna bring this in so it's being supported by this branch. And then I'm gonna put this into the water. Like that. So you can kind of see, I don't know, from the side right there, how there's that V in the branch. And I've put my bloom in between there so that it's really kind of being supported by that branch right there. I'm gonna try and take a line that's coming from the top of the arrangement, and then I wanted to bring it all the way down to the other side. I'm gonna do that with this sort of drooping tulip here that I'm gonna have hanging over and coming down off of the side. Let's see if you can kind of see that. I know it's a little bit difficult, but let's see. So you can kind of see that tulip right there that I just put in is now kind of coming there she is, down. And that's really kind of bringing that line from the top here, and it's running it all the way down, which I really like. Five tulips in, go in a couple of more, come into this side over here. The one thing that I do like about using a glass container is I can see if my stem is actually in the water or not. And luckily it is. Okay. I'm gonna try and bring one up here to bring a little bit of color right up in there. So I'm gonna look for my longest tulip, which is this gal here. And again, I'm gonna let this sort of naturally curve this way, even though I know tomorrow it will probably be a different story. But again, I'm like looking in my vase and I'm looking to see, you know, if this is in water or not. That's going to be your most important thing. I'm going to shift it over this way a little bit. And then I'm using this as my front here. So I want to have a shorter tulip right in here, sort of right smack in the center, kind of act as a focal point. You know, these tulips will probably open up a little bit too, which will be really lovely. All right. So I have one more tulip. I have two different color tulips today. So now I'm going to go in with my yellow tulips. And I'm not going to use as many of the yellow tulips as I did with the orange tulips. I'm going to use these as a little bit more of like a highlight almost. These ones have a lovely bend to them. So I'm gonna use that for today, even though I know tomorrow it's probably not gonna be due. Again, I'm gonna use that bend. And I'm gonna use that to my advantage. And I'm gonna have this one kind of hang over and droop down from the front of my container. I think I'm just going to use about 5 tulips of the yellow. That. And I think I want to bring a little bit more color to right in here. So I'm going to do a tulip that's going to sit in a little bit closer. Again, I like to, when I'm doing my blooms, I like to have ones that are in closer towards the container and ones that are coming out further from the container to create a sense of depth with the hair. This one we're going to do in closer, maybe. And another thing I like to do is if the stem is not cooperating, I will drop down closer to the bottom of where the stem's going into the container and push from there. And that usually will get it in where I need it to go. All right, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So I want to definitely keep this at the odd number. I'm going to go in with my last yellow tulip up in here. Okay, so this is going to be my last yellow tulip that I'm going to put in back here. And it's going to be a little bit closer down. So again, it's not at the same depth as some of the other ones. So it's giving it a little bit more dimension. I'm going to go in with some of these last few pieces of pittosporum that I had saved. And I'm going to look and see if there are any bald spots. And I'm then going to fill in with my pittosporum. There's a couple back here. Just want to fill in. And then with this one, same thing. It's going to fill in some of the pittosporum over here on the side so that you don't see all of that nonsense that's happening. All right, so what I'm going to try and do, let's see, I'm going to hold up my piece of cloth so that you can kind of see the back without the distraction of, let's see, the other cherry blossoms. So how does that work? All right, and then I'm going to just sort of show it from the bottom and kind of see, oopsie, down this way as well. All right, so I'm going to leave this over here for now. What questions do you guys have?
We've got one question here, Amy. We are seeing some buds on the cherry blossom branches. Are they going to bloom in the vase?
Yes, they should. So these cherry blossoms that I got in, I actually got them in 2 weeks ago. So that it needed, they're in really tight bud form. And then we knew we needed about 2 weeks for it to then come into bloom. So if it's, if it's got light and it's got some warmer temperatures, it will definitely bloom for you.
Excellent. Thank you, Amy. Does anyone have any other questions? You're welcome to unmute yourselves or put any questions in the chat that you may have. If there are no more questions, is there anyone who would like to share their arrangement? Just raise a hand or unmute yourselves, whatever you'd like to do.
Looks like people are busy working away on the arrangements.
I don't know. Can you see mine somehow? Or wait,
Absolutely.
wait, I didn't get the cherry blossom thing going. I guess
those-
the red buds.
I love it. Yeah.
Oh, that's not, it's hard to see. Can you see the vase? I guess I didn't. Let's see, how do I do that?
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that.
Oh, that looks wonderful. Yeah. I like
I-
that you were able to do the red bud, but you also have the tulips and the hyacinth as well. And then what's the other green that you have in there?
Well, I thought it was that, I don't know what it's called. It's this stuff. I thought, I didn't get the leafies. Do you know what that is? It's like can you see it?
I can, but I cannot identify that.
I know,
But I think it works nicely though. I think it works nicely with that. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of went to that Potomac marketplace and I went nuts.
Wonderful. Yeah.
So I guess, I don't know if you can see it or not. I
Yeah.
probably should have gone too high here, maybe too high.
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, if you can see mine in person, you can notice that it's very high. But I think with these, when you're dealing with any kind of like blooming branches or anything like that,
Mhm.
I think if you do have ones that are up like really high, I think it works just because again, it's going to be a little bit lighter and it's a little bit delicate. It's not like having a solid mass of anything up there like leaves or something. So
Yeah,
no, I think it looks great.
yeah,
It feels like spring.
yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
All right. All right, it looks like Nancy, would you like to share your arrangement today?
Sure. I'll do my best. Let's see.
Can you get it up higher?
I could not get cherry blossoms because we had pouring rain yesterday and high winds. So I did not pick them off the local trees here. So we did not get cherry blossoms. The best I could come up with were pussy willows, which don't give that grace that you had in your arrangement. There was a plethora of tulips, that's for sure. Let's see if I could not get pittosporum, believe it or not. Nobody had it.
Huh. Well, I like the wispy greens that you have that you're using because I feel like that works with the pussy willow nicely too. I really can't see the arrangement at all.
No, I know. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Let's see. I can't lift up the container, but I can move the iPad perhaps a little bit.
Well, that's good. Yeah.
There we go. We have some. It's a very wispy green. I don't know what it is.
I can't
Almost
tell
like
what it is. Yeah. No, but I think that it works nicely with the pussy willow because it has the same sort of line and a texture to it. So excellent.
when the rain stops, I will try to go out and get some cherry blossoms in the dead of night.
Well, be careful with that for sure.
But that was a fun venture for sure.
Well, wonderful. Looks wonderful.
Thanks.
Thank you. It looks like we have one more question here for Amy. what would you suggest for alternative mechanics for glass faces so the chicken wire doesn't show?
So this is one of those things that I do get asked this a lot, and I have two thoughts about it. So one is that I am using a green galvanized chicken wire, so that I think when you put it into any kind of glass container that has a little bit of texture to it, because it's green and because your stems are green, I feel like it sort of disappears and you don't need to necessarily worry about it. That being said, if you have a smooth-sided glass container and you're really trying to hide the mechanics of this, one thing that I think is fantastic is bear grass. Because bear grass, you can put a ton of it into your container even after you put the chicken wire in, and that will really hide a lot of the mechanics. And the bear grass isn't going to sort of get mushy and break down. The one thing that you want to avoid is putting any kind of greens in your container that will then start to break down, because that's when it starts to rot in the water, and then will lessen the life of your arrangement. That being said, you could always take like big tropical leaves, like ginger leaves or like monstera, any of those like big sort of hardy leaves, and you can either wrap it around the outside of your container, especially if it's for like a one day event kind of a thing, or even a couple of days that you want to have the arrangement. You can always wrap it around the outside and tie it with like some twine, something like that. Or you could try and put the ginger leaves on the inside and then wrap the container that way. The only thing that's tricky about that is then if you're trying to put chicken wire in with it as well, it starts to rip the leaves. So a lot of times I think the best thing is either, going in with like the bear grass, something like that, or you could even go in with a lot of twigs and branches and that kind of thing in a glass container, and that will also then start to camouflage the chicken wire.
Great, thank you. Does anyone have any other questions, or is there anyone else you'd like to share today? All right, great. Well, it looks like we are all set. Thank you so much, Amy, for another lovely floral arrangement. Again, our next program is on Friday, May 17th. The link to that is in our chat, but it's also on our website at hillwoodmuseum.org. So thank you all for joining us on this afternoon, and I hope you all get to enjoy this beautiful spring weather this weekend.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.